This is the On All Cylinders podcast,
powered by Summit Racing.
Your host for today is Summit Racing's Paul Sokolis, with special guest, Dr. Jamie Meyer from the High Performance Expo.
Here we go.
This is the On All Cylinders podcast. Paul Sokolis in the host chair today, and we've got a good topic to cover. And it's quite frankly something perhaps we should be talking a little bit more about. It's easy to get caught up in all the hoopla surrounding this hobby and this profession of ours. From flashy paint jobs to 1,000 horsepower engines. It's easy to overlook sometimes that there's an entire industry, an entire ecosystem supporting racing, motorsports, restoration, hot rodding, what have you. So to shine a light on that facet of our world, we've got Dr. Jamie Meyer, a consultant with the High Performance Expo going down this summer, June 3rd through the 5th at the Charlotte Convention Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. Dr. Meyer, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Hey, Paul. Good morning. Thanks for having me on. I can't wait to talk to you about this topic and whatever else you got going on today.
Yeah, this will be an interesting one. I'm excited to see where our conversation goes. But before we dive into that, I like to start these interviews with one of my favorite questions, and that is simply, what got you into this great hobby or profession of ours? What made you become a gearhead?
Yeah, no, thanks. I want to make sure I'm very clear up front. I am a Summit Racing customer my whole life. I love Summit Racing. I love what you guys do. I love everybody associated with it. Shout out to Al Noe. He keeps you guys hustling. I love you as part of the big marketing machine over there at Summit. You guys are everywhere and certainly give back to the industry. So, I grew up as an enthusiast in upstate New York. My grandfather was a stock car racer. My dad was a 55 Chevy fan, and my mom was a street racer, believe it or not, with a big block Monte Carlo. I went through a lot of school, but always kept doing stuff with cars. I graduated from the medical school in Syracuse with a PhD in anatomy and cell biology, but I was racing in Syracuse with my 88 Mustang notchback and doing crazy stuff like that. So went on to Cincinnati and started writing for a lot of different car magazines. So mostly Mustangs, but I was in Hot Rod magazine as well at that time. Helped form the NMRA and the NMCA and worked with Steve Wolcott and that great team. And then I left science, and in 2005, 2006, I started working for General Motors and worked with Chevrolet Performance. Got to do a lot of cool stuff, Paul, like launching the LS crate engines, launching the LSX line of parts and pieces, even helped with the Copo Camaro, the Stingray, Silverado. And toward the end of the run in 2020, I was on the SEMA board of directors, and I was asked to take over PRI. So I left General Motors, went to PRI for 3 years, was on the executive team at SEMA, helped with all the great advocacy work that group does in Washington and all around the country. I've done a stint with private equity, with Petronics, Automotive, help with the acquisition of the Roadster shop. And right now I'm a consultant to the industry. So I'm working on the High Performance Expo. We're going to spend some time talking about a really cool new trade show. But I also worked for a really cool Bronco shop in New Braunfels, Texas called Badass Broncos. And most recently, I started consulting with Fox Factory, one of the largest upfitters in the industry. They do as many as 10,000 new vehicles a year. So, and I got some other stuff cooking, but that gives you an idea of what I've been doing over the last 25 years.
And that kind of overlap between personal passion and professional experience is exactly why you are the perfect person to talk to for this particular topic. So let's dive in. Can you kind of explain the nuances behind this profession, the aftermarket performance and the racing motorsports industries?
Yeah, I mean, you and I were talking about this before you hit record, right? Like, what a passionate group of people that make up this industry. And we were talking about your audience. You certainly have the do-it-yourselfers that are the core of what Summit Racing does, provides great materials for folks that are building hot rods. But you're also a massive part of the industry made up of all these manufacturers. And, there's a really big number out there, north of $50 billion of annual sales in the automotive aftermarket industry. And there are a ton of jobs that make that possible, right? From marketing folks to finance folks, to engineers that dream up all these crazy things that make our cars perform better or look better. And education is a key component of what we're talking about at the High Performance Expo. Baseline folks, if you're a young person and you want to know how to get in the industry, Or if you're more seasoned like you and me and you want to improve your leadership game, or you want to get exposure to people that are doing parts of this industry, jobs in this industry, areas of the automotive aftermarket, if you want to up your game, you gotta be around people that have done it and people that are looking to expand their teams. And the High Performance Expos really great chance. These trade shows that bring people together is a really great chance to up your game, take your company and take your personal skills to another level.
Yeah, and there it is. People say, I'm in the performance industry. Well, what does that mean? Are you bolting on cylinder heads in the pits, or are you managing the team's Facebook account? Both equally important. It just speaks to the massive spectrum of roles and skill sets required for this industry. And more importantly, we're scattered all over the place. It's a big country, and you have just as much innovation on the West Coast as you do the East Coast, certainly the Midwest and the Southeast, a racing hotbed. So there's lots of great stuff being developed all over the country. Can you kind of talk about that, like the importance of coalescing as an industry in one location?
Yeah, so the High Performance Expo came about because of industry needs. There's a few things to consider, right? I had left the other organizations and ran into a lady in these circles, right, that promotes and produces trade shows. Her name is Jennifer Hoff. Really smart lady, has decades of experience in other trade shows, which was really interesting to me. So she was talking about big construction shows, cryptocurrency trade shows, cannabis shows, other areas that we're seeing huge growth. And we just started talking about what's going on. The automotive trade shows, or just automotive new car shows in general, are really on the decline. It's quite concerning for me, right? I think people like us, Paul, have gone to that show and got to sit in a new car. And I always think about that as when I was a kid, right? The impact of sitting in a car that I could never even imagine affording, and then you grow up and you realize, like, man, that thing was a pile. I probably should have liked Corvettes or Ferraris or something better than that, whatever. But anyways, Jen and I talked. She talked about the things that they do at Taffy Events Strategies, which is the company that owns the High Performance Expo. And there were some key things, right? There really hasn't been a major automotive and no automotive aftermarket trade show on the East Coast of the United States, which is where your big population centers are. We've had some stuff in Orlando, but never in the Northeast and never anything significant in the Carolinas. We talk about the communities, right, and the authenticity of being in a location that's all about cars and all about enthusiasm for modifying vehicles and racing. There's a few that come to mind, right? Like you could say Southern California. I would argue Detroit, right, where the big three are. But the High Performance Expo is going to be hosted in Charlotte, North Carolina. You and I love NASCAR. All of your listeners love NASCAR. There are a couple of people I've heard that don't like stock car racing, which seems absurd to me. But, regardless, you respect the culture that created that phenomenon that's been going on for decades. And you think about the great names and the great people that have come out of that. And the other thing that we talk about is you need this community of people. There's this group of folks that already exist that really want to come together and grow their industry. Well, in Charlotte for over 20 years, founded by Richard Petty and Rick Hendrick, is the North Carolina Motorsports Association. And the NCMA has done an incredible job of growing motorsports in North Carolina. That sounds obvious, but there's a lot to that, right? There's the manufacturers, there's the teams themselves, there's the OEMs. And then what some folks know in the financial world is that North Carolina, Charlotte, is the second biggest financial hub in the United States, and all of the banks are located there. And candidly, they just have a lot of financial capabilities that other cities don't. So we had talked to NCMA about it. They've got a great leader, David Miller, there. Their chairman is Greg Walter, who is the president of the Charlotte Motor Speedway. ZMAX Dragway is also part of that facility. Two of the finest motorsports locations on the face of the planet. And then Scott Lampy's also their chair-elect, who is the CFO of the Hendrick organization. And they were very interested in hosting their own trade show for obvious reasons, right? They want to make cars, modifying cars, racing cars better in that area. So they are our official sanctioning organization. We've got all their energy, we've got all their talent, we've got all their people that want to make this come together. So that's kind of the bones of it, Paul, that gives you an idea of how does this thing happen? How does it come out of nowhere? And we're off and running, right? We've got close to 100 vendors already committed to the floor. We've got a great educational program that's lined up. And then our keynote speakers will be Rick Hendrick, Jeff Gordon, and we're going to have Jeff Brown, who runs the Hendrick dealership empire. I'm really interested to hear what he thinks the future of automobiles look like. So that gives you an idea of how this thing comes about and some of the big hitters. We've got a great weekend event as well. But I'll pause there, Paul. I'm sure you got 100 questions for me.
Well, we only have about 30 minutes here, so I'll have to shave off a couple of those 100 questions. But can you kind of explain the benefit from the perspective of, say, a big company, a small company, privateer? What can be gained by attending a show like this?
So you have to break the segments down, a lot like you do as a good marketer, right? And you first think about if you're in the business, all right, what are the benefits of coming to a trade show? Well, if you're a small manufacturer, you get exposure to big companies like Summit Racing that might be able to help you with marketing and distribution and product ideas. If you're a big established company, you may be looking to acquire small companies, or you may need a media partner, a lot like what you do, or some of our other great media partners that are coming to the High Performance Expo. The biggest problem right now is that we need people. This industry is growing so quickly and so rapid. Like Paul, endless numbers of companies have come to me as a consultant and said, "Hey man, I could double my business if I had another 5 technicians. Where do I find these people?" We've taken that on as a huge charge for the High Performance Expo. Folks in that area know there are a lot of excellent schools. There are some incredibly talented people that are coming out of those areas. You can also think about people that might be wanting to transition after spending 20 years with a NASCAR team. Wouldn't you like to have one of those fabricators in your shop if you were a manufacturer? Like, oh my gosh, so these are the type of resources you can find at the High Performance Expo. But yeah, if you're a manufacturer, if you're in the industry and you make money selling speed parts, these types of shows have to be on your radar for people, for capital, and the networking to grow your company. Now, what if you're a small shop, or what if you're a consumer that side hustles and does brake jobs and supercharger installations, right? Well, wow, what an interesting place. You can get a direct relationship with a manufacturer, maybe get a deal on what those parts cost, maybe see the latest in technology on tools and equipment and what's coming down the line. And it's really where the growth of business takes place, getting smart people together and solving problems and helping each other out. You know this, I think everybody that listens to this knows, this industry especially has no problem lifting up someone that's having a tough time. And, I think immediately about the times I've spent at drag strips and somebody breaks, even if they're racing you in the next round and you've got the part, everybody gives them the part. That's really what I think about when I think about these trade shows, is that we can help these folks. And I think, Paul, more broadly, right, the auto industry has challenges right now, right? In the news just today, we're talking about tariffs on vehicles that aren't built in the United States. Those types of big, massive problems, they're tough as an individual. But when you bring together the whole industry, right, we can work our way through anything. We can get a voice to people that make decisions, and we can improve everybody's companies and standard of living. So there's a few ideas for your listeners on how the High Performance Expo can help them personally.
All right, so let's take that another step forward, shall we? Say we do have someone listening to this podcast that wants to join the automotive performance industry, or say they're a weekend warrior and want to start making more of a commitment to working in this profession. What advice do you have for folks seeking that first opportunity to get their foot in the door? Or should they bring business cards? Should they shake hands? Who should they talk to? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is an exciting question for me, right? Because I think we've all snuck into trade shows, right? Like made up our own business cards and said we were media or whatever it took. So look, I think do your homework, make sure you're going to the right show. Make sure it's affordable for you. This should be a very affordable show, the High Performance Expo. Yeah, if I was walking around with a new member of this industry, and I'm pausing because on the side I have the Cars Illustrated Empire, which was an old street racing magazine from the 80s, and I have a young guy, Connor O'Hara, that runs it for me. He's 24, just bought his first project car, over the moon, excited. Connor's going to be at the High Performance Expo, and what I would tell him, which I tell anybody that's going to a show like this for your first time, absolutely have business cards, but also a lot of folks like higher tech ways to connect, right? So LinkedIn has a really cool way you can hit the app in the search bar, your QR code comes up, and you can get linked on LinkedIn real quickly. So some people may prefer that. Work on your pitch, right? Work on what you do. What value do you bring? Just because I like cars isn't enough, but I like cars and I've been trained, and my dad runs a shop and I've worked in there since I was 10. And I really love this segment of the auto industry. Whatever the pitch is, like work on that. And then also think about the schedule, right? So for the High Performance Expo, the industry is asking for two very specific things. One is we want B2B interaction, so that we want to talk to our consumers always, but for a trade show, we want to be really specific B2B. So we've scheduled June 3, 4, 5, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday and Wednesday are going to be specific for B2B activities. You're going to see a really strong business-oriented educational program. But Thursday, we open it up for consumers. So that would be a great place for someone that's really not sure. They might want to ask around. They might want to stop and see you at the Summit Racing display and say, hey, how do I get to host a podcast? I've been doing that for my high school. Like what tips would you give me to start a podcast with a company like Summit? And you'll be very flattered, and you've done this before, and you'll be able to coach a young person and get them up to speed real quickly, give them a couple tips. Or you may want to be a technician, or you may want to be a financial expert that helps with acquiring other company. Whatever the scale is of somebody that wants to work in this industry, the High Performance Expo will offer that, which transitions into the weekend. We're working with the great folks at Motor Trend and Hot Rod. Eric Schwab, just an incredible leader over there. Mike Galimi, who's the general at the Hot Rod Empire, right? They're going to be putting on a Friday night and a Saturday event, probably like Roadkill Nights, which is what we have in Detroit, but there'll be drag racing, there'll be car shows, there'll be some off-road stuff. We've got so many truck people interested in the High Performance Expo. We're going to have a separate truck section, of course. But for someone just getting into this, what a great way to mix with some of the great minds of our industry. Of course, we'll have a full manufacturer's midway. That'll be at ZMAX Dragway, and that should be a great way for folks that want to learn more about the industry or just want to go drag race and have a great time. Get out to Charlotte. That'll be in Concord, of course, but just outside of Charlotte, and mix it up, have some fun.
Fun. Let's not overlook how important that is, the camaraderie. I think between the two of us, we've got quite a few SEMA and PRI shows under our belt. And that's a big draw, too, just being able to socialize and meet and exchange ideas. So that's a huge factor as well. Now, I know you've alluded to some of the speakers you've got already, but can you share with us some other familiar names and familiar manufacturers that'll be on site as well?
Yeah, there's some great people that are already involved with High Performance Expo, great manufacturers that are already committed to the floor. One of the first ones was my friends from Scoggin Dickey Performance Center in Lubbock, Texas. Great folks. I know them from the Chevrolet Performance parts that they carry when I used to work there. I think they're the supplier to GM crate engines to Summit. So there's a great connection there. We've got Hoosier Tire, SRI, and the entire Greg Fernelli empire. SRI, they were one of the first ones on the floor. They're bringing, I think, 6 companies, which is interesting because Fernelli has a steel and an aluminum company. So his opinion on the pricing of some of those raw materials is super valuable right now. So we're going to have Fernelli talk a little bit about that on our HPX stage. One of the things that's happening, Paul, is we've got people, because of the location on the East Coast, because it's a new show, we have companies, big established automotive aftermarket companies that are going to be displaying at the High Performance Expo that have never displayed before. And the one that comes to mind is Vengeance Racing out of the Atlanta area that has done, they routinely build 1,500 horsepower daily driven Corvettes. Ron Moen's the principal there. Howard Tanner just joined that organization as their chief calibrator, an incredibly talented engine builder. Sunoco just signed up, more of a mainstream name. Hoosier Tire, just to give you an idea, some tool companies, technology companies, and a lot of the technical folks, right? Like the engineers that build race cars for a living are really excited about some of the companies that we have on the floor already. So that'll give you a little taste of what's there. And of course, we're going to have a lot more companies coming in as we get close to the show, but it'll be a good one.
Now, if appetites are sufficiently whetted here, where should someone go to find out more information on the event itself? Does the High Performance Expo have a website? Let's start there.
There is a website. It's thehpx.com. We're on all the socials as well, right? You just say socials, Paul. Isn't that the appropriate term now?
Yes, I do believe that's what the youths are saying nowadays.
Socials. It's on all the socials. Yeah, I think Instagram, LinkedIn, if you want to be an adult about it, or Facebook. But go to the website. You can get registered now. There's space on the floor if you want to be a vendor, but definitely attend and just get on our mailing list. Go to thehpx.com, sign up for our mailing list. Get some information, learn some more about the schedule and all the activities we have coming. But that's where you find out more about the High Performance Expo.
All right, so let's say hypothetically the event has occurred already, and now you're looking back in a retrospective kind of mindset. What needs to happen at an event like this, any trade show really? What needs to happen for you to call the event a success, and what will you carry forward in planning for next year and beyond?
Well, look, we're already committed to doing this a second year. I probably should say that right out of the gate. I think for me, it's real easy for someone to slip into the numbers and then start comparing this event. For me, I'm going to be walking the floor. I'll be talking to the manufacturers. I'll be listening into the educational programming. I think I'm actually running. I think they signed me up to run one on marketing or something like that. I think the title is Your Marketing Sucks. And they're going to put me on stage with that title. That's how good these people are to me, Paul. Anyways, I think it's going to be the people that came to the High Performance Expo, meaning our vendors, our manufacturers, the folks that attended the show, the folks that attended the educational programs. A lot of activity happens after hours, Paul. You know that the networking at the bar, at the hotel, right? Like, there's multi-million-dollar deals being put together in those kind of laid-back settings. But those will be the stories that tell us if we did a good job or not. Were the people that were there successful, and did they grow their business? It's as simple as that.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already, so I want to bring back a point that was made earlier because I think it bears repeating, and that is simply that this industry, the automotive performance aftermarket racing motorsports, demands a massive spectrum of skill sets, from marketing to manufacturing. And at a trade show like this, it seems like there's something for everybody, right?
We've got great educational programs, so check that out on the website. You should be there. We have stuff just specifically for media, Paul. You should take advantage of that too. We've got the weekend activity. We call it HPX Live, which is going to be super cool. Bring a project car. We'll get you into the heads up class or something. I would say bring more nitrous than what you got on it now, just so you know.
Now, there's some valuable advice.
The guys in North Carolina, South Carolina, they build race cars every day, Paul. So you gotta bring your best if you're coming from Ohio. And we just got some great momentum with the show. I'm super appreciative of the people, right? The North Carolina Motorsports Association, just a great group of folks. We have an HPX advisory council made up of some of the greatest names in the industry, but not just legends, new people that are coming into the industry that have a lot of great questions for us to answer. And there's a great timing for this show. We didn't talk about it, but if you're running a business and you're looking at your spend for the year, and there's a show in June where you can launch a new product, you can talk about a new service, or maybe hire some of those key people, it will help you have a better 2025 than if you wait till the end of the year and run an event. That's for 26. The year's over, and we want to help people right now. So come out to the High Performance Expo. I'll be there running some sort of educational program, and it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, these events have a way to kind of tentpole your entire calendar year. And they're a great opportunity to meet your colleagues, share ideas, innovate together, collaborate, and build that camaraderie that's so vital for a successful industry. So if that sort of thing sounds good to you, thehpx.com, the High Performance Expo, Charlotte, North Carolina, June 3rd through the 5th this year. And with that, Dr. Meyer, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Good to get to know you. I can't wait to go racing with you. It's going to be fun.
This has been the On All Cylinders podcast,
Powered by Summit Racing.
Check out new episodes coming soon at OnAllCylinders.com.
OnAllCylinders.com.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.